Hey, welcome back to Basin Motorsports. You might be new to the channel because of this build, but if you're new, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for stopping by for this story. So this week I picked up a new project car that I will start to build in 2021. So yes, I'm sure the headline got your attention. Wide body, burned, and an exotic. So this is just going to be the story of how I picked up this car, and I will eventually show you what the car is. Now, a lot of times I just surf through Copart because I am always looking for a good deal. A lot of times I'll look for a new truck, maybe pull the L asset of it, a new Chevy truck that is, new transmission, anything like that. I also look at various Mustangs. Once in a while I'll pick up a Fox body. You never know if I can find one on there. And it just so happened 2 weeks ago, I thought I'd click on the category of exotic. So the first result I looked up as a daydream actually showed a car that was about 3 hours away at one of the Coparts. Now, let me preface this with the car I picked up. A lot of people are going to say, that's not a real exotic. Well, it was in the exotic category, so I'm going to leave it at that, thanks to Copart. Now, when you hear the term burn, most likely you're going to think of a car that looks like this. Or even one that looks like this. Or this. Yep, this looks like a pretty good burn. Now, once I get out and show you what I bought, a lot of you are going to say, that is not really burned. Well, it was listed that way, and I could tell you I really wasn't sure what exactly I was going to get into. And the last, you're going to say, it's not a real wide body. Well, it is a wide body. No, it's not a wide body like this, where the Wide Fox has a 3-inch wide body kit on it. This is a factory wide body, and I'll show you based on the pictures what constitutes it being a wide body. So getting back to the story. A couple weeks ago, I had seen this car online on Copart, and I thought I would put it on my watch list. Now, this just means I watched it to see how high of a value it was going to go. So up until about 24 hours to this car being auctioned off, the value on it, or the bidding on it, really wasn't very high. And I made the comment to my wife that, man, that would be a great car to build. I had a great idea for it. And she said, okay, if you're going to do it, here is the maximum amount we could afford until you get the gray lady done and sold, which is over here. You know, this is the gray 1986 I'm restoring and going to get done soon. And then you need to decide, if it gets way out of hand, you need to decide what you're going to sell to be able to get some extra funds. Could that be the Wide Fox? I wasn't quite sure about that one. So I had a set value in mind. And then the auction comes up, and it gets closer and gets closer. And so I thought, well, I better at least put my bid in, right? So I threw a bid in there, and it gets time to the auction, and I wait for it, and it gets time, and it starts going, and then somebody else bids on it, and they outbid me. So I outbid them. They bid again, I bid higher, they bid higher, and it gets to $50 less than my maximum. And they stopped bidding. So I sat there and waited, watched the little thing count down, and it gets to the end and it says, you won! And my wife walks in from the other room and said, did you really just win that car? And I said, oh yeah, I did. Alright, so I win the car, and at that point I'm like, well, now I have 2 days to go get it before they start charging me storage fees. So I went and picked up the car this Wednesday. Now, this is a couple days ago. I went and picked it up, and it was rough. So snow was supposed to come in, and today, on Friday, it's snowing. And so Wednesday, it was supposed to be really cold overnight. It's supposed to have black ice. And the road from where I live over to Eugene, Oregon, over Oregon 58 in Willamette Pass, is notorious for accidents. So I got up that morning, I left here about 8:15, and I get all the way up to Willamette Pass. Now, by this point, I've already seen 2 trucks that had been through the ditch. One had rolled completely. The semi directly behind me on Highway 97 hit black ice, went through oncoming traffic, almost into the woods. By that point, I was like, this is enough. I get to the top. Well, I had to get up there because I was towing a trailer. I had to put on chains. So I had 20 miles of really sketchy ice that I had chains on, 20 miles an hour, but I eventually get through it, no problem. I got over to Copart about 1:15, almost 1:30. So it took me 5 hours to drive there. And in summertime, not towing would have been 3 hours flat. So I get the car loaded up, paid for, they give me all the documentation, and then I'm like, well, I guess I'll just wait. That's when they start rolling up on a big old Volvo with the car up on the skids. So they grab it, they set it up on the trailer, and immediately I strapped it down. So once I get the car on the trailer, I stopped to get some gas. I had not eaten by then, so I grabbed a couple sodas, which, you know, not good protein or anything else. I grabbed a bag of chips and a candy bar, and I hit the road. Now I went south all the way down to almost to Central Point in Grants Pass, and then jumped off I-5, went over 140, picked up some Little Caesars pizza. Wife said she wanted that, and I came home Wednesday night. Now by now you've already seen what the car looks like, so for further ado, let's go outside to the other garage and I'll show you the car itself. Alright, so some of you guys that know what this is a 1987 Porsche 944 naturally aspirated. Now you guys might remember back to January of this year that I put out a video that I almost bought a Porsche 944 for my birthday this year in January at the beginning of the year. Now I didn't pull the trigger then, obviously I haven't had any videos about it, but I finally got one of these, and I had a grand plan that I'm not sure I'm going to go through with. So come to Thursday morning, my wife comes out and looks at the car. She had not seen any pictures of it beforehand, and she came out and looked at it and was like, what in the world did you just buy? So at this point, you can see in this picture that was from the auction ad, on the driver's window it says locked, and it was listed as having no keys. So I was like, man, what in the world am I going to do with this thing, because I don't have any keys for it. I had no information, and I had no dealership basically, or nobody here within 3 hours. A dealership's 3 hours away to get keys. So I thought, I'm going to try something crazy. So I get out my key ring, I get all my keys, right? I've got 2 Suburbans, I've got a Chevy truck, I've got 2 different Mustangs, and I thought, well, I'm going to try some keys and see if this will open it somehow on a stupid whim. Ladies and gentlemen, a spare Chevy Suburban key unlocked the Porsche. So now that I could get into it, the next thing was to roll it off. Now this is a new storage building we built. You can see kind of progress on it on the channel and stuff, but this is a building that we built, and this is supposed to be my storage for my green wide body that I just showed you inside. Instead, I put a Porsche in here for the winter until I put the garage doors on, and that at least it's safe and dry. So now that I could get into it, I looked everywhere hoping, please let me get in some keys. Well, no keys. But I did find an insurance card for a previous owner. So I went and scoured the internet trying to find the previous owner by name. I had his address, but I couldn't find anything on social media. I ended up finding someplace he actually was listed through. They gave me some contact email. I contacted him and talked to him last night. So I have a complete history of this car, how it came to be burned, and pretty much all the details on it. Now if you notice here on the body itself, you can see that it's kind of got some plasticky gunk here and that, and this actually isn't the car, this is something else. And so it did actually melt the tail lamp, it kind of melted the bumper right there, and then you can see on the front here, I walk up, you can see the hood and the fenders, and that is all missing paint. So that's down to basically primer, I believe, on there. Broken windshield, some stuff inside that, yeah, it's a 1987. So the interior is great though. It's in pretty good shape. It's all black. The hatch is faded out, and then I thought, man, this thing's got a burned up engine because the ad said it had an engine burn. So I was like, man, this thing has got to be burned up inside the engine. So I went inside, pulled the handle, popped the hood, and inside this engine bay you can see there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's really clean for an 87. It's hard to believe. So essentially the burn of this car was nothing to do with the engine, and I confirmed that with the previous owner once I got in contact with him. All the stuff has a lot of maintenance to it, and really he took exceptional care of this. This was his weekend car. The reason it was listed as a burn was that there was a fire in Southern Oregon a couple months ago, and honestly the car was sitting next to a building that burned to the ground. He sent me this picture, which I'm amazed this car is still in great condition, other than, yes, it's got a little bit of damage to the rear quarter. It needs a new lamp or a new lens. It's got to get some work done up here on the fenders and everything else in the front, but the metal is in good shape. It just needs some paint or some exterior work like that. So now that I've got this here, I don't have any keys. I'll have to get a locksmith to come out and cut these, or I've already talked to the Porsche dealer in Bend, Oregon. They gave me the information I need to bring them to be able to cut keys. Now we're assuming this has the original locks in it. I know that a Chevy Suburban key miraculously somehow can get in the driver's door with everything worn, but it won't open any other lock. It doesn't work in the ignition or anything else. So I'm gonna have to get some keys cut, whether that's through a locksmith or through a Porsche dealership. And that point, I'm gonna do that next year. This thing is safe and sound. The gas was stabilized. This car was in storage for 3 years before it was through the fire itself, so I'm not too worried about it. The gas is going to be what it's going to be. At this point, 3 years, even with the best stabilizer, the gas is probably bad. So I'll have to drain it out, try and clean out the complete system. The battery in it looks pretty corroded. Even if it was on a charger, the battery's probably dead most likely, so it'll be what it's going to be. The car is safe in storage in here, and now I'm trying to decide what I was going to do with it. When I thought I was buying a shell that pretty much had a complete goo of an engine because of a big burn fire, I thought, well, I'm going to LS swap it, right? So you can get an aluminum block LS that adds literally 40 pounds to the car to put in a big muscular V8 in here. You can get 400 or 500 horse in an engine, put in some of the Corvette pieces to go to the transaxle in the back, change the transaxle from a naturally aspirated one into a turbo one. And this car will put out 400-ish wheel horsepower, has a perfect balance 50-50 front to back. And I've heard with that change, this car is a completely different car and is a monster to drive. I already have a wide body down there. I've already got this wide body, and now it was a matter of, I thought, let's take this and put it against the Wide Fox. Wide Fox is much wider, but this thing would have a horsepower advantage. Now going forward, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the drivetrain. Honestly, I'm going to get it running just to drive it for a little bit. With the body change itself, I'm going to vinyl wrap it because that seems to be my thing. I'm not really into paint that much. And really what I paid for this car, I'm not sure I want to put all that money into paint. I think right now, because the body's in great shape, doesn't need a lot of work, needs to be stripped a little bit. I can vinyl wrap it whatever color I want, and I really don't feel like I'm going to ruin the value of this Porsche. It's already listed as totaled, and so I'm going to have fun with it versus trying to, I guess, keep it totally original. Now, once I go through the drivetrain, comes time for maintenance on this thing, on the engine. I can tell you the timing belts and everything else are supposed to cost about $1,000. Even if I do most of the work, you can probably bring a lot of that down, but it's still going to be hundreds of dollars. I'm not sure I want to do that with this. I may go the LS route at some point, but right now, I think I'm just going to get it together, get it running, get it driving. My wife has never liked a project car I've ever built in the last decade, so this might be the one to change her mind, but I doubt it. So what would you guys do with it? Knowing you get this home, you're only into it, not very much money. Would you get it running? Would you leave it alone? Or would you just say, nah, we're going to LS swap this sucker immediately and go terrorize the streets? I'd like to know. But that's the story. How did I get a burned Porsche exotic wide body? Well, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So if you're new to it, drop a comment down below. If you're a following subscriber, thanks for sticking around. This will be next year, but I get it back to my Mustangs. So that's it. We'll see you next time.